Hello, everyone, and most welcome to 1988 of the series. We will continue the started, let's see, 1983, what's a while ago? Spiral Philosophy by Geoffrey Cannon. The Spiral Philosophy, what goes around comes around. Kalle found a depiction of a spiral made by Richard Long the very same year. We can have a look at it. It seems to be cast mid-desert. There is also spirals made by the Indians in the Chilean desert. I forgot the name of the desert, but they're very famous and incredibly large. And slightly mysterious. They are too big to be viewed from the ground. We can continue on page 14. We have some examples here. Every small reading begins with some examples. Here we have some fruit devices and also a symbol of partnership. Two hands intervaled, bringing them together to make for unity, compassion. When opposites go into each other, this is when we get this fantastic feeling of gratitude, happiness, friendship. We get more of everything. It's inclusive. It brings everything forth. And you're on page 15. We have Jill Peirce to the left in her book, The Mystic Spiral. Then in between, Jacob's Ladder by William Blake. And Modern Quest for the Jewel of Fire and the Minaret of the Mosque of Samarra. Samarra! Samarra!
Jewel of Fire.
Samarra! People who think Osama bin Laden was not responsible for 9/11 are called conspiracy theorists. In response, they point out that the official story of what happened is a theory about a conspiracy masterminded by a man in a cave in Afghanistan. All stories offered as explanations of 9/11 are conspiracy theories. By analogy, those who see history, life, progress, and so on as cyclical, and spiral or vortex in shape, depending on whether things are going well or badly, are liable to be put down as irrational. But the idea that progress, life, history, and so on are linear, such that development is growth in a straight line forward, is by its nature also not rational. Both these ideas, cyclical and linear, with their very different implications, are metaphysical. Metaphysical. Neither is scientific in the sense implying that one or the other can be proved mathematically. Mathematically. But both can be tested in ways similar to the assessment of all sorts of evidence that leads to a verdict in court of law, or to deciding what kind of society, guided by what type of principles, we want to live in and desire for those who come after us. Who come after us? Good ideas are informed by facts, but by their nature they are above and beyond data. And to repeat my own position, I am sure that the linear concept of reality is a mistake, is wrong, is a bad idea. Look where it has led us. This was part of the conversation I was enjoying with the biologist Rupert Sheldrake and Jill Perth, his wife, over dinner in their South Hampstead home some years ago. We share the idea that life is richer if we think and act is as if everything has meaning and purpose. Then, in the midst of my explaining that the spiral symbolizes the new nutrition, Jill excused herself and came back a few minutes later with a mystic spiral, the book of which she is the author. It is beside me now, inscribed by her. By her, by her. 3 illustrations from the book, and shown above, a painting by William Blake, a pop art evocation of Pilgrim's Progress, and the 9th century CE minaret of the great mosque of Samarra. Rupert relished all of this, all of this, all of it.
Relished. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Yummy, yummy. Relished.
Relish, do enjoy. The pictures left and right above are of Jill and her book cover showing the pilgrim Sudama and the childhood friend of Lord Krishna in search of the pearl of wisdom. For me, there are lots of such pearls. One is that coincidences are signs. Signs. Another is that beliefs held consistently by different cultures at different times are likely to be valid and valuable. Valuable. Valuable.
Valuable.
Another is that current conventional nutrition science has limited value. By its nature, it cannot grasp the full meaning of nutrition in all its qualitative aspects, biological and also social, cultural, political, economic, and environmental, and physical, as well as mental, emotional, and spiritual. And spiritual.
Spiritual. Psh.
Perhaps for clarity, nutrition in its full sense should be termed nourishment. Nourishment.
Yummy, yummy.
This circles back to the original concepts of dietetics as the philosophy of good life well led. Nutrition as a biological science has a chamber in this mansion. In this mansion. This is the way the world may end, when spirals become vortices. From left, our galaxy, the Tower of Babylon, the Arctic ice death spiral, the shape of New World storms, money. Money going down the drain.
Oh no, ouch, ouch,
Oh
ouch, ouch.
no. What can we do? We've been here before. Celtic Spirus, New Grange, 3000 before Common Era. Cretan spirals, 1500 years before Common Era. Canary Island cosmic clock, date unknown. Two installations, Sahara Desert Breath and Utah Salt Lake Jetty. A Salt Lake Jetty. When humans mark the earth, they may make the designs in the shape of spirals. Left are the remains of the New Grange of the Celtic civilization of Ireland 5,000 years ago. Next is a 5,000, yes. Next is a maze-like shape made in Crete around 3,500 years ago.
Oh.
Center is what may be a cosmic clock found in the high mountains in the Canaries.
Canary birds.
Canary Islands, Canary birds, Tenerife, and Gran Canaria, La Gomera, Fuerteventura.
Canary birds. Yummy.
Indeed. The felt need to express energy and life force in the shape of spirals is not just an ancient preoccupation.
Preoccupation.
Two installations are shown at the right. One is a piece of over 100,000 square meters made in the Egyptian Sahara by the DAST art team led by Dane Stratu, which can be seen from space. At right is a jetty made from 6,500 tons of black basalt by Robert Smithson on a Utah Salt Lake.
Salt. Yummy, yummy.
Salt Lake. All of these invites us to sense the experience of life, either moving round and into a center, passing by the points where we have been, or else begin in the center and to move round and out while always being close to previous points. You may think I'm preoccupied by spirals. True, although my constant conscious interest is in the significance of the shape of the spirals. What they can tell us. We all think and act according to a sense of the shape of things, often unconsciously. Unconsciously.
Shh.
The model of life and reality that drives practically everybody in those parts of the world that are politically and economically dominant. They have most money, machines, and weapons of mass destruction. Is that of a straight line? Of a straight line.
Straight line.
It's that of a straight line. The dictatorship of the straight line. This model is one of constant novelty. It implies indifference or contempt for all that has passed. Indeed. It is preoccupied with growth and development and confuses both with metrics such as taller physical height, later age at death, and greater turnover of money. It is obsessed with change in our field or any area of public life. How often have you read or made. A policy proposal that what is already being done without expert intervention is right and should be protected. Protected. Protection. Protection. Protection of public goods. Not often. I suggest this, I hope, helps to explain why I began this series of columns with spirals and invite you to meditate on them. Meditate on them.
Meditate.
We have a real chance of getting our topic right and contributing to the improvement of public health and protection of public goods when and only when we deliberately and mindfully reject the straight arrow. Ooh, what a coincidence! Linear model of life and reality. A recent concept in which most of us remain trapped and which is driving us to destruction. Yeah. Destruction. Destruction, my echo.
Destruction.
Destruction. Demise and destruction. The spiral model implies knowledge and respect for tradition and age-old ways of living and being. It enables us to see that in a real sense, nothing is new, and that we have been here before. In the past, in all parts of the world, empires, civilizations, societies, and settlements have fallen, decayed, or vanished because the people in those times and places destroyed the resources needed to survive. Now we have come here again. There is no good evidence that we are any wiser than previous human societies. Indeed, knowledge tends to drive out wisdom.
Knowledge tends to drive out
Wisdom.
Wisdom.
To learn the lessons of history, we need first to eradicate from our minds and hearts the notion that life and reality moves ever forward in a straight line. They do not. That way lies the eventual end of any form of secure civilization. 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 That way lies the eventual end of any form of secure civilization. It's so good. Geoffrey Cannon. Wow. Seeing reality as it always has until recently been seen, as a constantly renewed and revisited spiral, which, when things go well, circles outwards to enlightenment, puts us on the right road. Hooray for the spiral!
Hooray.
We've been warned. 5 vortices from left, the biblical flood, the wave, down to the depths of Dante's hell.
Oh no.
Dante's hell. The reversed citadel at Sintra.
Ouch.
Pattern of flame. Hurricane Katrina over New Orleans of New Orleans.
New Orleans. Katrina, where are you?
Who have eyes to see? Who have eyes to see? 5 more vortices from left, the eye of a hurricane. US East Coast El Nino. Coast of Brazil. Aircraft turbulence. An ocean maelstrom. Ooh, scary. A tornado storm in the US. In the US. We are all becoming more and more scared. What can we do? We need to find our way with the spiral. The spiral is also in sound. Every period of history is modern for those who are living in it. This may be the first age in which most people foolishly imagine that what is past is inferior. For us now, what is written in the Christian Bible and other texts before the age of science is ancient history. Ancient history. We are inclined to read of the strange events that were seen as significant then, with a sense of having risen out of an age of superstition. Plagues of locusts, rivers drying up, darkness coming up upon the earth, great floods, animals suddenly terrified, signs and portents in the heavens. We tend to think of these as chance events or invented stories or delusions of hepped up hermits, and at any rate as not significant. We need to think again. People up to what is known in the Europe as the Middle Ages lived without most of the technology we now have, but they were necessarily more observant than we usually are. People up to what is known in Europe as the Middle Ages lived without most of the technology we have now. But listen now, they were necessarily more observant than we usually are.
Observant.
Observant. They had to be. we need to think again about what natural phenomena may mean. For example, we all know that before a tsunami strikes, the ocean recedes, tethered animals scream, and free animals seek high ground. We also know that the eruption of Tyre in biblical times around 1500 BCE, which destroyed the Minoan civilization, caused great darkness and floods, and because of causing ecosystem mayhem, may account for the plagues narrated in the book of Exodus. Exodus!
Peter Cruz.
As for signs and portents in the heavens, the ancients did not have telescopes, but they had sharp eyes to see clear skies. And they needed to predict what we now know as El Niño events, the meteorological causes of floods and aridity, and thus of all four horsemen of the apocalypse, famine, war, conquest, death, all of them at least some of the signs they divined did have real meaning. And what we can see if we look as above is vortices, which is to say, spiraling down into the deadly eye of great storms and maelstroms. Maelstroms.
Maelstroms. Maelstroms.
Maelstroms. Isn't that amazing? Compare the tornado above right with Botticelli's picture of Dante's Hell. It is the same shape.
Shape.
We who are trained in Western concepts tend to assume that structures made out of straight lines are rational and real, and that other shapes, as those found in nature, are random or chaotic and have no meaning. But the shapes of the centers of hurricanes, tornadoes, and maelstroms are, as you can see, essentially the same. They are vortices which have destroying forces. Oh dear! Oh dear! The ancients may not have been able to see the shape of hurricanes, but tornadoes and maelstroms are visible as terrible phenomena, well, at least sometimes. Phenomena!
Terrible, terrible.
So is the increase of hurricanes foretelling a general descent of humanity into disorder, chaos, and eventual obliteration. Obliteration. Are they signs and portents of a great curse, if not of Jehovah, Yahweh, then of Gaia? Gaia! Gaia! I think she's the Earth Mother.
Indeed. Yes, mother. Yeah. Erda.
Short of that, sorry.
Erda.
Or short of that, a last warning. Is it true to say that the more vortices there are to see, when we choose to look, the greater the trouble we are in as species? This seems to be a good working hypothesis. In which case we are back with the ancients, and all the better that we should be. The advice of seafaring folk to keep a weather eye open seems wise guidance in these times now. In these times now. What a good way to end. Page 19.
Page 90.
1988. The 26th of December. 20 past 12. I'd go look for some quotes. Let's see what can be found. Who have eyes to see? It's a quite marvelous article, and it brings so many things together. We see the importance of vortices and spirals and shapes that go in circles, but do not go to back. They don't go back to the same end. I think I'll show that just quickly on the whiteboard here.
You need to make your screen bigger. We don't hear you speak. That's strange. But you're muted some way. Somewhat. I don't know why you are... Something has happened with your microphone. Hans, we don't hear you. I see only your mouth moving, but I don't hear you.
Now, nothing?
Yes, now I hear you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kalle, for pointing that out. The origo is not far, and I'll start over with a circle here. It's the starting point of a circle, and it takes you back to the exact same point at the end. Nothing advances. This is very close to the XYZ of the Cartesian system. There is no development. The origo here can all be brought back, and you can also transfer the XYZ system to the circle, making for no development at all. What spirals are suggesting is that you go around almost to the same point, but you do advance. There is an advancement constantly. So instead of this one or that one, use the one that akins most to the discoveries within science. It's a development at the same time. It goes forward, something is happening. It's a progress. The spiral is happy that way. It brings a possibility into everything. And also compare with logic. Traditional so-called classic logic is bringing everything into the same point. There's no development. The either or is a stoppered. It goes into zero. It's the same as the circle or the Cartesian orthogonal diagram, where the perpendicular directions, the arrow directions could equally go nowhere. And as you remember, time doesn't develop in Newtonian physics. It could equally go back, and it equals out to amounting to nothing. The spiral is much more healthy. It's the natural way of doing things. And according to the author of the article, and I agree to some extent, or that this is how people used to see the world, as spiraling upward, accumulating for each turn. We can go back to sharing. Stop the video. On page 15, where Jill Peirce was, interesting knowledge. The wife of Rupert Sheldrake. I didn't know she was an author as well. Very interesting. And since William Blake is mentioned here in the term of Jacob's ladder, remember William Blake going against Newton. and how he thought Newton was the zero system where everything went back to the original point and nothing happened. We can also compare that to Vico Giambattista that we mentioned, Giambattista Vico we mentioned the other day in the previous lecture, who had a beef with Descartes, the Cartesian orthogonal directions. The spirals they seemed to defend, but still lacked the understanding of chaos theory that came later with Lorentz, Mandelbrot, and Feigenbaum. Rupert Sheldrake himself, mentioned in the third paragraph at the beginning, has still been, so to speak, I don't know what to say, fighting for the circles or a more encompassing way of seeing reality, well, where all facets of reality come into action. That is to be compared, as I mentioned in the previous lecture, the birth year for the book about chaos by Gleek, that we, in the zero system, with the zero development, we cut up what is into negatives. To have goodness, we need to cut out something and to make that marginalized and prioritized. In the end, we only have half. We're left with half. The spiral brings forth much more. It doesn't end. The more you put in, the more you get. It's a constant development, bringing forth more and more for every time. It develops. And I say, the spiral points to the difference between development and no development. How you can gain instead of lose. Go further to next page, 17. Just an interesting happenstance here. The cosmic clock from the Canary Islands, one of the depictions. The Canary Islands was also the working place for some time of the Nobel Prize laureate Salinger, who there showed that the whole universe was one encompassing thing. Entanglement all through universe, making it completely sizeless at the same time as it has size. They are both present at the same time, size and no size. And that feature is also shared by the spiral. In the second paragraph here, I usually skip the I'd say the photo text, the text for the photos. Yeah, that one, yeah, Atlantic. And here, Geoffrey Cannon mentions and writes quite, I really like this paragraph, it was fantastic here, how our obsession with the linear thinking has led to the demise of everything. Leads to unhappiness, lack of understanding. Everything has to be a constant growth. And we make the little now point sharper and sharper and thinner. It's like walking on a line. You easily fall down. And this contempt for all that has passed, as we can see on line 6. This model is one of constant novelty. It implies indifference or contempt for all that has passed. All knowledge that were in the past is now dissolved or rejected as unnecessary, unhelpful, non-malignant almost. The Middle Ages is a bad time. All that passed before is just horrors, damage to society, no understanding. The only thing that should survive is the line. And of course, in this, the right hemisphere comes in. It loves the line, the linear. The right hemisphere has no past, it has no future. It doesn't really exist in time at all. It doesn't know time. Instead, by representation, it invents what it thinks is time. What is time for the left hemisphere? Well, it's the rejection of the past and the future. It's a Scarabee box invention of time. Someone who cannot understand times. The last sentence here is very uplifting. Seeing the last sentence of the last paragraph, if you may please. Seeing reality as it always has until recently been seen, as a constantly renewed and revisited spiral, which, when things go well, circles outwards to enlightenment, puts us on the right road. That's the road of quantum physics, of thinking, of our reality. When our bodily system is in alignment with the spiral, our voices will become more spiral in shape, and they will resound better, bring forth our meaning in a better way. I would say that is a criterion, speaking in Wittgensteinian terms. The spiral makes our voices more alive, and our living system, when we let spirals direct our head upwards, spiraling up, not fixating or zooming in, thinking that everything is based on scale. To go to the last page, 19. Here is a rather negative take on turbulence and maelstrom, which I think is a bit exaggerated. We don't have to go so far. Is a bit of a warning if we don't go into the spiral. He makes his point, yes, but I think still it doesn't have to be that way. But harmonious sounds, look at the spirals. The galaxy might be an example of something that is alive, very different, and it feeds out of contradictions. And so do our own thinking. It lives on contradiction. If we want to make our thinking stable, our direction in life have a certain direction. Let's take in contradictions. Do not marginalize, and you will see that you will gain so much more of both singularity and plurality. What a great article. Kalle, please come in.
Thank you. Page 17. Let me return to the same phrase, the last phrase on page 17. Circles outwards to enlightenment. I think that it would be more correct to say circles outwards and inwards to enlightenment.
Oh, yeah.
Because this gives the idea that, so let's say that we replace the arrow line or the arrow straight line with the spiral way of thinking. It might still, we might still be trapped. Why so? Because it's easy to think that the center here is the original, is prioritized. But when you have storms, let me see any pictures of storms here. Like here on the, no, this is a galaxy. Oh no, here. This is the shape of New World storms. Is that you give priority to the center, so to say.
Yeah.
That it comes first. But how does it work? Is the center, comes it chronologically first, or how does it work, Hans?
Well, good question. No, it doesn't. It all comes simultaneously, the outside and the inside. And what we call a strange attractor, I think people most confuse and think the strange attractor is in the middle. This is what the mistake I did. No, it isn't. It's both on the outside, on the inside. So indeed, yes.
And therefore, I think Cannon is, I think he makes the same mistake as you did previously, that as this last phrase shows here, that is, he gives priority, Cannon gives priority to the, that what comes in the outer aspects, as if the circle, the center is. So we have to point this out clearly.
Indeed, Kalle, you're absolutely right. It's an inward movement as well.
The spiral, so to say, or whatever you want to call it. So, as a side note, I could mention here. I usually don't like with you see the lines here are straight, and here.
Oh yeah.
Almost spiral, not.
It's left marginal, yeah.
I think this made me think about McGilchrist's left and right side of the brain.
Yeah, yeah.
This, I think, this is more natural way. Although, I don't know. I think it's pleasant here. I don't know if it is helping you to develop the right side of your brain to have. Because we get focused. I admit it myself that when I see Martians, when they are not straight, I get a little bit irritated.
Yes, so do I, Kalle.
Fixation.
We are two. You, me, both.
yes, we know we want both straight Martians.
You, me, both.
And yes, I think that also Blake's Jacob's ladder is the way to heaven and not a straight ladder.
No, exactly. It's a spiraling thing. The spirals are bringers of great joy and relief. And it's been important. It's not a rejection of the Cartesian orthogonal perpendicular lines. They are actually a lesser derivation of the spiral. They are a lesser tape. So the spirals will do the Cartesian orthogonal, but the spirals are more, much more. So staticness here is coming from the more open spiral, so to speak, which has them both.
Okay, I propose that we leave there for today.
Yeah, let's leave on these nice photos. I would take a gander at Jill Peirce. Very interesting that the wife of Ian McGilchrist, no, sorry, not Ian McGilchrist, Rupert Sheldrake has written a book about the mystic spiral. I wonder what it's about. Thank you very much, Kalle Lundahl. Excellent comments and such an amazing happenstance here because spirals we mentioned before. I thought Salinger for some reason. This spiral from the Canary Islands, which is far from one of the biggest, did develop. That's an happenstance in itself. And you also had the horsemen that we mentioned in the previous article. So now we see how these things happens. Isn't it amazing? Thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in. Have a nice morning, day, or afternoon. Bye-bye for now.